Welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast, the podcast devoted to the local music scene in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, here's your host, Matthew Ablin.
Hello and welcome to episode 36 of the Queen City Music Podcast. This month, I am excited to speak with Pete Lentz and Cliff Stankiewicz, who are members of ABACAB. If you're not familiar with ABACAB, they are one of the premier Genesis tribute bands here in the U.S. The members of ABACAB are Pete Lentz on vocals and drums, Cliff Stankiewicz on bass, guitar, and vocals, Patrick Raymaker on keyboards and vocals, Matthew Hedrick on drums, and James Nelson on lead guitar. ABACAB is not just your ordinary tribute band that pays tribute to classic era Genesis, but they also delve into the band's pop era during the 1980s, as well as the solo careers of the members of Genesis. Sorry, I got my thoughts together. All right, Pete and Cliff, thanks for coming on the podcast, taking time out of your day today. I appreciate it.
Hey, man.
Hello, how are you, Matt?
Very good, very good. All right, so let's run down some questions for you guys. Are you originally from the Charlotte area? Pete, how about you?
No, I am not. I'm originally from, I did move around a lot, but I'm originally from Hartford City, Indiana, which is a little tiny town south of Fort Wayne, which I say Fort Wayne or Muncie because people know where those are, but nobody knows what Hartford City is.
And Cliff, how about you?
Proud to say I am originally from Jackson, New Jersey, famous for two things, Six Flags Great Adventure and the childhood home of Mr. Zakk Wylde, who went on to play with Ozzy. So that was pretty cool going to school with him. I got to see him play in high school before he got big.
And pork rolls.
And pork roll sandwiches, yes. But I've lived in Charlotte. I've lived in and around the Charlotte area. Longer than I lived in New Jersey. I moved here when I was 23, back in December of 1993. So this December I will have lived here 27 years, and North Carolina is my home. I love it here. I can't think of a better place to live. I'm
going into my 15th year here, and it is definitely home at this point. You know, I can't imagine. I'm originally from New York, and then I lived in Ohio for a number of years. You don't say with an
accent like that.
It's not as bad as it used to be, trust me. I used to say coffee and water like on a regular basis. Now it's just coffee, yeah.
When I go back home to visit, everybody thinks I sound like a redneck, but down here everybody knows I'm a Yankee, so I'm caught between two worlds. You know?
I've only lived here since 2008.
Okay.
I moved here from Pittsburgh. When I was living in Indiana, I moved from Indiana to Central Florida, and then from Central Florida to Pittsburgh, and then from Pittsburgh to here. I moved around with work. I was a dueling piano player in Florida for a while. I moved to Florida with a band, and then in Florida, I got started at dueling pianos, and then I moved around with dueling piano work.
Where'd you meet Kristen?
Oh wow!
I met Kristen I met my wife at Disney World, and when I was working at Disney World.
I know she's originally from Pennsylvania.
She's originally from Pennsylvania. Yep.
So since Pete brought it up, Pete, what's your music background? You say you play piano and you're the vocalist for ABACAB, but fill us in.
Okay. Well, I did high school band and all that stuff, of course, when I was in high school. But when I was in high school, my choir teacher got the version 1.0 of Cakewalk, the very first the very first sequencer thing. Yeah. That back in 1993, I think, was when that hit, and so I was fascinated with it. I was like, wait, I can just plunk out music and stick it in here, and then I can make songs in the computer. This is crazy. So every day after school, I would just go in, and so that's how I started figuring out how to play piano. And then when I went to college, it got bigger, and I became a keyboard player, and I could always sing. So I became a keyboard player and singer in local bands and stuff in Indiana, and then when I moved to Florida, that's when I started working at Jelly Rolls. It's a dueling piano bar at Disney's Boardwalk.
Shout out to Jason Pollock.
Shout out to our buddy Jason Pollock. That's right. Who helped train me, actually. Jason Pollock helped train me at that gig. But then I started dueling pianos, which is the you sit across from somebody else and people bring you requests with money on them, and then you play that and you make them sing and stuff. And that took me in a direction where now I went all over the country playing dueling piano bars and working at various places. I've been out to Nebraska. I've played in Vegas. I've played in Pennsylvania at some places and Pittsburgh, and then I eventually landed at the Howl at the Moon here in Charlotte. I opened the Howl at the Moon that's up at the Epicenter.
That's no longer there, is it?
No, it's still there. It's just COVID. You can't go, but it's still.
Oh, okay.
It's still there. I haven't worked there since 2013, but it's been there since then. So.
Not that I want to talk about it too much, but I thought they had started to change the Epicenter over from like a nightclub type area.
Yeah.
And they were becoming more of a commercial
they have.
area for businesses.
They have. They're some of the businesses that the existing businesses are on the way out. But as far as I know, some of the businesses have actually signed new leases. So.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I don't hang out the Epicenter anymore, really.
Right.
So
I don't really crime there in the past couple of years, isn't there?
Huh?
Yeah, there was
Haven't
a lot of issues.
quite a bit of crime.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's unfortunate what's been happening to the Epicenter, but I mean,
this is the world we.
That's where we're at. So, but I don't. I haven't done. I went after Howl at the Moon. I formed my own dueling piano company, and I have like traveling shells. So I go play at like country clubs and restaurants and things like that. And then I got hooked up with Cliff and got into ABACAB. I was in a band, local band here called The Fifth Divine, which was a wedding band and stuff. And then I'm also in a band called Thirst and Howl, which is a yacht rock band that I started with.
An awesome band.
Yeah, thank you.
I love the name.
That actually got started with a lot of Queen City legends, people like Eric Lovell, Gigi Dover, Chris Revels, and Matt Carter, who are players that have played all over Charlotte in various bands since the 90s. They've all been here doing stuff. And they brought me on and was like, "You like yacht rock, right?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, I like yacht rock." So I'm the keyboardist and singer in that band too. So
Yamo be that.
We don't do that one, but
thank God.
How about you, Cliff? How about you? What's your music background?
Oh my God, it goes back to the day I was born.
Here we go. Settle in, kids.
It's going to be a ride, huh?
Music has been in my life since I was in the womb. I mean,
give them the Cliff Notes. The Cliff Notes.
Cliff Notes. Well, growing up, my mom always had my mom saw the Beatles at Shea Stadium, so
oh wow,
big Beatles, lots of Beatles in the house. Neil Diamond, Barry Manilow, believe it or not, and then I discovered Kiss, and then that was
nice.
That was the hard. Yeah, when I was 6 years old, so that was where the hard rock came in. But then I started, my mom listened to a lot of prog too. She loved Renaissance, Yes, Genesis a little bit. But, when the 80s came, my cousin took me to see Rush. And a couple months after that, I saw Iron Maiden. So there was the seed, it was like,
right.
I saw Geddy Lee and Steve Harris within 6 months. And I was just like, that's for me. But we didn't have a lot of money, so I couldn't get any instruments. I didn't get my first real instrument until I was about 13 or 14. And then I started taking lessons right about 1985, like professional lessons. I started taking guitar lessons first, which I'm kind of glad now. But 6 months I took guitar lessons. And I'm glad I did, even though I decided to go to bass, because everybody played guitar.
Right.
And I've always wanted to be a bass player, but for some reason my mom bought me a guitar, so I figured I'll learn that. And I'm glad I did, because it gave me a real strong sense of melody years later, especially with what we're doing in ABACAB now. But then I hooked up with a guy named John Kern who played bass in one of Zakk Wylde's early bands called Hatter Fox. So through association, I started taking bass lessons and hooking up with John. Shout out to you, John, if you're watching. Very important in my musical development, and still teaches in New Jersey to this day. He taught my half-brother, believe it or not. That's a whole different story. But, and then, after about 2 years of lessons, I started playing music around, put a band together with some friends, and started getting pretty popular on the Jersey Shore circuit. Played some venues that were pretty famous, especially the Stone Pony in Asbury Park, also known as the house that Bruce built, as Springsteen. We played a lot. I mean, I grew up in the town next to Springsteen. I mean, there's Jackson, and Freehold was right next to it, so I couldn't help but you can't escape Springsteen or Bon Jovi because he's from the same neck of the woods too. So.
Well, if you're in the tri-state area up in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, I mean, that's Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen, Bon Jovi. I mean, anybody who's from that area, you just are.
And then
if
later,
you're not a fan somehow or another,
Twisted Sister on the hard rock side, and Zebra. Remember Zebra?
Yes.
Love Zebra.
Oh, I absolutely
Zebra
do. I'm a
rules.
huge fan.
Love
huge
Zebra.
Fan.
They used to come to Great Adventure a lot, man. That's how I got into them. But, and we learned all the covers of the day, and we recorded our own music, and that lasted about 5 years before I moved. Oh, sorry. But, so, I mean, I developed a real keen ear. Like, to this day, I can't really read or write any music, but I've got a hell of an ear.
Right.
And that's gotten me a lot of gigs and a lot of cover bands, and especially in tribute bands, and it actually makes these guys a little mad sometimes when they try to talk musical stuff, and I just stand there. I'm like, where is it on the fretboard? I don't care. Just show me where it is on the stick.
Put your fingers right there
on the silver sticks. And the dot. Where's it in the dots or not the dots? But I get a lot of compliments about my playing, so I whatever. But anyway, then I moved here. I needed a change. I was running with a bad crowd, the whole drug thing, and I had a friend that moved to North Carolina out of the Navy, so I came to visit him one day and ended up down here. And then I hooked up with various bands rooted in metal and prog metal. Various bands, and ended up where I am now, where I'm actually busier musically now than I ever was. I'm in 2 tribute bands, and I'm in an original band called The Reticent, which is prog metal. If you're familiar with Opeth, or we get compared to early Opeth, and there's a lot of Tool influence, and there's some Dream Theater in there. So that's more of a backing band thing, because that project focuses around one guy, Chris Hathcock. Hey, Chris. He does everything in the studio, and then he has a live band, and I'm part of that. So I've been part of that for 10 years. And then, the tribute thing, I do ABACAB, and I also do Pinkest Floyd with some members of ABACAB. So,
What was the foundation for ABACAB forming? Because you guys are the premier Genesis tribute band. I'll go out on a limb and say in the country, but at least in our area.
There's some good ones out there, so that's high praise.
I'll put
remember the musical box exists.
You guys send them.
They are
the musical box. If they're up in Quebec, they focus on the Gabriel years, but our drummer Matt and I went and saw them in Atlanta last year, and oh my God, it's like being in a time capsule. They reproduce. Yeah, they reproduce everything,
actual shows.
Like actual.
Oh, okay.
The instrument, like right down to the clothing and the instruments. Everything is of that period.
Our tribute could be more associated with an homage.
Yeah.
Whereas
their
musical box are trying to replicate. They have the look, they've got the sounds. They're doing actual set lists from real shows, and we're just going, "Hey, we celebrate the whole band, and we dress like we want."
He wears he wears the shirt he's wearing now.
I wear Voltron shirts.
But getting to the origins, about 10 years ago, I got asked to be part of a Godsmack tribute. I'm not necessarily a Godsmack fan, but the people that were involved were friends of mine. And I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Could be fun. So I did that for about a year. Right around that time, I was like, I was plotting my next move when I felt things falling apart. And I started looking at all the bands. I'm like, well, okay, what are their tributes to? There's a gazillion Journey tributes. There's a gazillion AC/DC tributes. There's a Billy Joel tribute. We'll get to that in a minute because I'm real tight with me and Mike Santoro are real tight, right. as we all are. We're very, very close friends and big fans of his. There's that. There's Fleetwood Mac, blah blah blah. Yeah, but who do I love? Okay, let me look at who I love. Okay, there's Rush.
Sure.
Well, that's out because even though I can put Exit Stage Left on right now and play it note for note, front to back with no problem. I can play it on the bass. I can't sing like Geddy Lee, and I can't play keyboards like Geddy Lee. So unless I can do it authentically, I'm not going to bring in a separate singer and a keyboard player. So who else is there? I'm like, well, Genesis. I said, they really don't exist at that time. They didn't exist anymore. And talk about a catalog, man. That was the other thing too. I didn't want to just be in a tribute that was going to be a greatest hits show. I can't stand that.
So you already had a conception of what you wanted to do,
right?
If I'm going to do a band, it's got to a tribute band. It's got to have the exact same amount of guys. It's got to play a whole bunch of music, but it's not going to be just the hits. I've got to play an array of their stuff,
right? But I mean, I'm not stupid. I am a businessman too. I do realize it's got to be weighted in a certain era. But the other thing, man, Genesis was perfect. Not only do you have this gigantic you've got literally 3 different fan bases from the really early Gabriel guys, the people that only know that only appreciate the 80s and 90s hits, and then you got people like me and P here and Matt, our drummer, who love all of it. Like, we follow the band through from the very first album all the way up to the final album that didn't even have Phil Collins. That's what's funny about Genesis. Their first album and their last album do not have Phil Collins on them.
Yep.
In fact, their first two albums don't have Phil Collins on them. He didn't join.
Yeah, but I venture to say their biggest period in success was with Phil Collins.
Oh, obviously.
For sure.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he started out as the drummer, and then when Peter Gabriel quit and did his trip, Phil came out and started singing. But then I started thinking about the solo songs. I'm like, if I did a Genesis tribute, what if we did everything? What if we did not only all the eras of Genesis, but we did the solo stuff? We did Phil Collins solo stuff. We did Peter Gabriel solo stuff. Mike and the Mechanics.
Right.
Mike Rutherford had Mike and the Mechanics, had a couple of really big songs. And so I was at square one because the first guy I had to find was going to be the singer. I've got to find the singer and the keyboard player and build everything else around that.
So was Pete the original singer? I mean, which brings me to my next question. First off, how long have you been doing ABACAB? How long has the group been around for?
5 years. 5 years since I met him. Okay. Prior to that, I didn't even know who he was. I went out to go see a friend play at Tremont Music Hall. Michael Tracy. Hi, Mike.
Yeah, I've heard of Mike Tracy. Yeah,
and you know Mike.
I don't know him personally, but I've heard him around town. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's a good friend. I've filled in. I've played back up to him once. So I went to see him, and he had a sax player with him, a guy by the name of Jeremy Adams. We're name dropping. Hi, Jeremy.
That's my boy.
And Jeremy looks like Phil Collins. And at the end of the set, I shook his hand. I said, "Man, you guys were great." I said, "By any chance, can you sing like Phil Collins?" And he just chuckled. He laughed. I love telling this story.
Yeah.
He just chuckled and laughed because you could tell, even though he didn't say it, I get the feeling he got that a lot. Like that's not the first time he's heard that. He goes, without even blinking, within 2 seconds, he goes, No, but I know someone who can. He goes, do you know Pete? Do you know Pete Lentz? I said, no, I do not. He goes, well, pull him up. He's on Facebook. He's one of my friends. He would be all about it. So I pulled it up, and I think it was that night, I messaged him. Didn't even know who he was. Sent him a message. I said, hey, man, I just saw, I'm friends with Jeremy Adams. I'm putting together a Genesis tribute. Is it something you would be interested in? I don't remember the exact wording. I don't even think it was a minute. Mm. It wasn't even a minute. And he was like, I think it was a one-word answer. He didn't want to know who I was, where I came from.
Yes.
None of this. It was, yes, I'm in. I'm like,
there you go.
Okay. And at this point, I had not heard him sing. And as chance would have it, he was doing a solo piano show in Monroe, where I live.
At Titan's Tavern.
Which isn't there anymore. A little dive bar. So that was the first. I literally met him 5 years ago as of last month. And that's the official, we like to call that the official launch of the band.
Okay.
I think I played Turn It On Again for you at that show.
And then I talked to, after that, then I talked to Ryan Richard, who I knew from a then Pink Floyd band called Eclipse. And I've been friends with their drummer for years because he also plays in a punk band called Anti-Scene. And since he knew Gilmore's a very tasteful, laid-back player, I figured, he might want to do Genesis. And he liked Genesis, especially the early stuff. So I got him on board. And then through another friend, we hired, I got in touch with Jeff Nunnery on drums, who I knew from another band. So we didn't have a keyboard player. But he knew how to play but Pete knew how to play keys. Okay. So I was like, well, at least maybe we can the four of us can get in a room and start playing and then look for a full-time keyboard player.
Right.
Because you've got to have that presence out front. You can't have your singer behind the keyboard. Although we did do our first two shows.
The first two shows was me singing and playing the keys.
But then he's like, if you want to do the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, dude, we're going to have to bring in a keyboard player. And then he knew one of his old dueling piano buddies, Patrick Raymaker.
Pat, I had done... I'd done dueling pianos with Pat in several different Howl at the Moon locations. Okay. And he and I used to hang out all the time and have beers and talk about old prog and kind of stuff that we liked. So when it came time for us to find a keyboard player, I was like, I got the dude. Let me give Pat a call. And it wasn't but one meeting over beers, and I handed him some Genesis books. I was like, bro, do you think this might be something you want to do? He's like, yeah, let me take a look. And then that same night I got a call. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm like, yes. Yes, you are.
And Pete pulled me aside. He goes, but there's something you got to know about this guy. I'm like, yeah, what's that? He's Canadian.
He's Canadian.
And we love Pat. Pat is an eccentric, but in the best of ways.
So once you guys once you had gotten the key members in, you guys haven't gone through any lineup changes.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we've gone through a couple lineup changes. We did. We switched drummers and we switched guitar players. And it's just, it's not. Okay. And it's not because there was any feuding or fighting or anything like that. It was different directions for people, and I think what we have now is the definitive lineup for sure. Like, I mean, we got the guy on drums that was playing with us, Matt Hedrick, who lives, sleeps, eats, and breathes Genesis music. He loved it. He walked onto the gig.
Can you guys just run down the lineup for everybody?
Sure. It's me, Pete Lentz. I'm Pete Lentz. I'm the lead singer and secondary drummer. So I go back and play drums on musical breaks and stuff. We got Cliff Stankiewicz, who plays bass, guitar, and Taurus bass pedals. We got James Nelson, who's also actually in the Reticent with him. We got James Nelson on guitar, and then we've got Patrick Raymaker on keyboards and vocals or background vocals, and then we've got Matt Hedrick playing full-time drums.
So as ABACAB, when you guys were getting things together as a tribute band, Cliff's got this idea. It's going to be a tribute band. We're going to do some solo stuff. We're going to focus on different periods of Genesis. What kind of venues are you guys focusing on to try to play? Because obviously you're not going to one of the local breweries and setting up and being like, okay, we're just going to do this because
we tried that. And, it doesn't work.
Initially we did try. We were just kind of let's get some gigs places. So we played like Big Owl's. We played the House That Rocks. But it became very clear very early on that our setup and our show was going to be very big and very loud and needed to be in theaters. It needed to be places like Amos's. And,
to be fair, when we had Jeff on drums, we really didn't hit on the double drummer thing.
Yeah, that
didn't happen for the first Jeff was with us 2 years.
Mm-hmm. That didn't happen until after Matt came in the band.
And Matt with his 10 drum kits that live at my house.
Because I didn't own a drum kit.
No, he didn't have a kit.
I know how to play drums because at Howl at the Moon they wanted. So working at Howl at the Moon, I learned how to play bass and drums.
But you have to,
but you got I had natural rhythm already, so I took to the drums really quickly. But I didn't own a kit, and so when Matt came into the band, he owns 5 or 6.
And I was like, okay, we're gonna do the double drummer thing now.
So now we can do it because we've got access to another drum kit. So.
But with that, you have to play larger venues. You have to play. We try to do larger clubs and small theaters, anywhere that seat from between comfortably maybe 400 to 1,000. That I don't think that we try not to extend beyond that.
Right.
Yeah, we're not that popular.
And it works. It works well in that setting too because we like the seated theaters,
Visualite
Theater, the Sylvia Theater. Lincoln Theater in Raleigh.
Theater, yeah.
Although ABACAB hasn't played there yet, there's a place in Greenville, North Carolina called the State Theater. Beautiful venue. There's a venue in near the Atlanta area called Mad Life Studios where we filmed our first promo. Places like that. Not really bars.
So knowing what you know, having had ABACAB for about 5 years, and you guys having pretty seasoned at this point, being in ABACAB and playing in a tribute band, what do you think are some of the advantages or disadvantages of being in a tribute band?
Well, I would say the primary advantage is you get to play all the music that you love, especially if you formed up in a tribute band to music that you already like, then you get to play your favorite stuff. I mean, one of the reasons I was so excited to join Cliff and do this was because I knew that eventually we were going to get to play in songs on Selling a Gun by the Pound, which is my favorite record of all time. I knew that we were going to play Firth of Fifth, which is, I think, the greatest song ever written. And I knew that I was going to get to sing that, finally in front of people.
And play drums.
Drums. And yeah. So the primary advantage, obviously, is playing music that you already like and you're already familiar with. I would say the disadvantage is you're only playing that one band's stuff, which I don't really think is a detriment because I don't really want to go up. I mean, I don't really want to go up there and play a bunch of covers because then people are going to be like, oh, we'll play Freebird. You know what I mean? And so being that it's a niche, and it's a tribute band with a very specific niche and a very specific set list, you get away from that. Play the Eagles, play AC/DC, play all this other stuff. No, we're playing Genesis today.
Unless someone says play the Tarzan song.
Yeah, Tarzan song, You'll Be in My Heart is where Cliff draws the line.
Which I do like it, by the way. I've listened to it, and I'm like, it's not that bad a song.
Right.
But expanding on that, I think that one of the major advantages to it is you are playing to a specific crowd that can either love you or tear you limb from limb. We've been very fortunate to be on the high percentage of the positive, but every now and then, man, you get one or two people that it's just like, especially when you got people like the Musical Box out there that are doing it to the letter.
Yeah, that is definitely a disadvantage that you get compared to.
We don't really put ourselves,
tributes.
but we don't put ourselves in their category because we go beyond.
We don't do that show.
We don't do that show.
That's not our thing.
So that's our defense for that.
Yeah, I think there are different tribute bands on that level. There are some tribute bands, and they try to recreate exactly what those bands or artists did at that point, or they are doing doing how you guys do it. I forget how you described it.
An homage. We're more of an homage.
There you go.
Homage tribute.
Yeah, it reminds me of, and not to bring my favorite guitar player into it, Jimmy Page, but I remember reading about there's this guy, he's a Japanese guitarist, if I remember correctly. His name is Mr. Jimmy, and he does Jimmy Page shows and Led Zeppelin shows, but he does them exactly like Led Zeppelin. He'll go out with the sweater vest that Jimmy Page wore in 1973 on this tour,
and the dragon bell bottoms.
Yeah, just exactly.
Is it the same?
that.
It's the same guy that. It's the same guy that plays in Jason Bonham's band now.
He might
right?
be. He might well be. Yeah.
I think he does, because I saw them open for Whitesnake and Foreigner a couple of years ago, and that was the guy. I'm pretty sure, because I mean it was. But as far as disadvantages go, for me, it's more of an equipment thing, because I don't mean that in a bad way. In a way, it's a good, because we have so much specialized equipment. I know so many bands that can do fly-ins, like they can fly somewhere and use whatever the club provides. We can't do that. We don't have that luxury. If we get a gig in California, I'm going to have to load up the equipment trailer and pull our equipment out there. So things like that are off the table. Doing things like Progtoberfest, which we've done twice, as fun as they are, it is very crazy to try to set up the amount of equipment we have in such a short period of time.
It's so much. It's more stuff. It's more stuff than any band I've ever been in ever. It's so much stuff.
Just my side of the stage alone, and I've downsized considerably since we started. I travel with, when we do a gig, depending on what songs we're doing, I could have anywhere from between 5 and 7, maybe even 8 stringed instruments that I have to use.
So when you guys are recreating the songs, you're not just doing an homage where you're just playing the songs. You're really trying to reproduce the actual sounds of that song.
Yeah, we're trying to reproduce the sound too.
Yeah, even if I don't have the same even if I don't have a certain this or a certain that, I might have an instrument that can cop that sound. Like recently we did the entire Duke album, and I learned that Mike Rutherford used an alembic bass on that album. And I don't know if you know about alembics, but they've got like a 5 to 6 band EQ on them, and they produce a distinct sound. I have one instrument in my collection that can get close to that, and it's my my Aria Pro 2 Cliff Burton signature model that I used in the Metallica tribute. I was able to get that sound that he had on that album with that bass. So it's things like that. I wanted, since we were doing specifically Duke, I really wanted that sound. So,
well, and then
gonna get better.
Yeah. For it's gonna get better, you got the octave pedal.
I got a mono synth pedal.
That's right.
Because I found out that Rutherford used a Roland guitar synthesizer on that, and I found one on Reverb, the exact guitar, but it was $4,800. I'm like, yeah. So I used my Gibson SG, and I spent $100, $100 to produce a sound for one song. So, and if we ever do keep it dark, from ABACAB, which we probably will do, especially finding out that's your favorite album now, we'll have to work on some more songs from that, because right now
I'll come out when you do an all ABACAB show. How's that sound?
Next year's 40 years, so I don't know.
That means we got to do Who Done It. There's some great songs on that album, but that album also contains Who Done It, which we all kind of collectively think is junk.
I would do that album specifically to play 2 songs, Me and Sarah Jane,
and Dodo,
right?
And Dodo Lurker.
Oh, Dodo's amazing. Love that.
Dodo and Lurker that's the standout track on that record for me.
Me and Sarah Jane, though, that just has that beautiful bridge in the middle that I love. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of all the songs on that album. I could imagine maybe Peter Gabriel singing that one. Like, I try to imagine what Peter would have done with some of those 80s songs,
Oh, yeah. But, getting back to your gear question too, that's,
drum kits.
He's doing that stuff. James is getting his sounds dialed in. Patrick also owns Kronos now, Korg Kronos. So so for him, he's getting like real Mellotron sounds out of it. Because the Kronos is that Kronos is a wonder device.
It can change your oil in your car.
Yeah. It can transform, go out, change your oil, come back in, and play
it. Yeah, that was because for the first couple of years, he was actually borrowing one of Pete's.
Yeah, he had one of my boards. Yeah,
and then he had a couple of his own, which he still uses. But when
he got the Kronos,
I guess what for the first 2-3 years. He was using, and then the Kronos came along, man, and it was
the Kronos changed our sound completely. Like we owe everything to Pat for that, because when he brought that on, he was like, guys, I took the plunge, I got the Kronos, here we're gonna play with that, and then all of our songs just started sounding better, just because he was comping like real authentic sounds. I mean, when we do Watcher of the Skies, his Mellotron sound is on point. Like it sounds exactly, and take Matt and his drums. Like the kits that we have, Matt was very specific about the type of kits that we have, because he plays on a big custom concert tom kit that has open bottoms. So he's got that big fat sound that Phil and Daryl used.
It's beyond that. The two kits that we use live, the one Matt uses is an exact replica of the kit that Phil used on the Invisible Touch tour. It's the white Gretsch with the silver inside the shells. So that's the one he uses. The kit that Pete uses is an exact replica of the Premier kit that Phil used on both Lamb Lies Down on Broadway and Trick of the Tail tours. So
it's got some extra hardware attached to it.
There's some extra hardware, and some of the shell sizes may vary, but the actual integrity of those kits are identical to the ones that Phil Collins played.
So like deep fans of the band look and notice that stuff. They're like, oh, you got the Invisible Touch and the 74 the lamb kit
and Trick of the Tail. Yeah. And here's what's funny: the last two, I saw Phil Collins, saw Phil when he was here in Charlotte last year, and then the year before that, I saw him in Chicago when, ironically, ABACAB was playing at Proctoberfest that same weekend. And his son Nick Collins uses that white kit with the silver on it. So I was like, oh, there's Matt's drum kit.
That kit sounds so fat.
We do pay. We're not as insane as Musical Box, but we do the things that we can easily replicate. We try to.
So when you were talking about it earlier, when you talk about fans coming up and noticing your gear, who's your fan base? I mean, obviously big Genesis fans, but are they guys around our age, like 40s and up, or do you have younger guys coming in who have discovered Genesis?
Well, it's kind of, what really surprised me was initially I thought that we were going to get guys our age that were going to, because Genesis was, that was something that, for them was a thing. Like guys traditionally came to their songs or their shows because they didn't really do ballads and stuff. And when, and they even mentioned, like the band themselves even mentioned on some of their some of their documentaries and stuff, that it wasn't until they wrote Follow You, Follow Me, and girls started coming to the show and bringing their boyfriends who may or may not have been into Genesis, and then got this big Genesis show. Their crowds doubled because of that ballad. And I think what we noticed at our shows, and especially I noticed when I look out in the audience, there is a solid mix of people. I see women out there. I see women who have come by themselves because they love the music.
Kate Hall.
Kate Hall. Yeah.
Shout out to Kate. She's a DJ on 107.9.
107.9. That's right.
She's a huge fan of ours.
We love her. She's fantastic.
But she's one of those ladies. Excuse me. She likes all of it.
She's a lady.
She can listen to everything we play. Like, we could throw the deepest track at her and she'd be like, oh my God, that's awesome. And then we can turn around and play Against All Odds by Phil Collins.
But then, like,
same thing.
But then,
there's
like,
a lot of people like that.
There's kids that come to the show that are like, we had heard, that they're into prog rock because, the state of radio right now. It sucks. Radio's junk right now. because everything is homogenized and processed to play at 128 BPM so that they can spin it in clubs. And it's all bite-sized nuggets of nonsense now. So the kids are looking for, something different, and they're finding it in the music of the past. So they come see bands like ABACAB, and they go, "Oh man, I had no idea." It was like, we just saw that Genesis was that Phil Collins guy, and here you guys are playing these 10-minute long opuses from 1973. I think that's neat.
I tell you what, a few months ago I had on. I'm sure you guys have heard him around town. The power trio Irrational. So I had those guys on.
Yes,
they opened for us.
They opened for us.
And
yeah,
those guys are really just fantastic and nice
great
folks.
kids.
But I had asked them the question about what drew them to the classic rock stuff that they were playing, and emulating in their own original stuff, and they just they put forth that pretty much a lot of the stuff is just almost like candy, of the modern stuff, and real stuff with substance and soul was older music and music that's been around. And I think the kids today, the younger audiences, they may be attracted to that, what's on the radio is the current thing, but because their parents are probably our age or maybe even older, they're like, this is what music is about. It's not this stuff that you're listening to. So a little bit earlier, Cliff talked about, hauling gear out to California, which was kind of a question I had. Where do you guys, where's your market? How far out do you guys go out of the Charlotte area to play shows?
Right.
I'll turn it over to Pete.
Right now we're just primarily doing East Coast stuff. We're staying on the eastern side of the country, but I mean we're open to going. We're open to going out west. It's just this COVID, the COVID pandemic hit us at. Hit everybody really at the worst time. I mean, I'm not going to claim that as an exclusive thing to us, but this was kind of our year. I mean, we had hooked up with Andre and he was really starting to find us a lot of very high profile shows. We were starting to get people online that are like begging us to come out to California, Ohio, yeah, and just start getting further into the West. And we were ready to do that, and then pandemic, and now it's okay.
Well, we've just been talking about how you guys have been impacted from COVID, like a lot of other musicians not able to play. So, what do you guys have? We start to wrap things up. What do you guys have coming up, and how have you been keeping yourselves busy during COVID? Because I know you did a live stream video, and I want to talk to you about that.
To be precise.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So what we've done so far is we've done two live stream shows. We did one where we covered the entire Duke album, which was done from the Sylvia Theater
40th anniversary
for the 40th anniversary of it. Yeah, and then we did like a standard what would be a ABACAB show. We just played an ABACAB show like 2.5 hours. That was live streamed as well, and we recorded both of them, so we split them all up and made them into individual YouTube videos. So now our YouTube page has got a bunch of content on it, which is great.
The full Visualite thing was, that place is our home. We wanted to. They let us come in there, and we did another Seconds Out show there, literally a week after Chicago. Like, they just let us come in and do it. Come in. That was our first show there, so they've kind of been our home in Charlotte. That's where we like to play in Charlotte.
And right now they're in trouble.
Along with countless other music venues, smaller music venues, they're struggling a bit. So this was our way of giving back. I think we raised close to $3,000 for them with that stream, and we gave all the money got funneled right into their GoFundMe. So we were able to give back to them. I got a nice email from Bernie. Hi, Bernie. Appreciating what we did to help them. So we're just trying to help them with that particular stream. So But we do have another one in the pipeline, and I think
you're going to do the official announcement right now.
I'm going to do the official announcement. I kind of alluded to it on our Facebook page. We mentioned that 3 years ago for the 40th anniversary, we did the double live album Seconds Out. That was a different lineup. We had Ryan on guitar, and we did a good job with that, and we had fun with it, and a lot of people loved it. This year, Steve Hackett of Genesis was going to do Seconds Out. Like, that was his plan to tour. But all his plans got canceled too. So I figured between that and the fact that we constantly get people wanting us to do Supper's Ready again, we have not done that since Ryan's last show with us 2 years ago. We have James in the band who has taken us to the next level guitar-wise. I would love to hear what James would do with those songs that are on Seconds Out. So I made the executive decision that, okay, maybe since Steve canceled his tour, people were wanting to hear that album. We haven't done it in a couple of years, so let's do it. So we're going to do.
Fantastic.
We are going to do Seconds Out, and
I think we're shooting for October.
We're really shooting for Halloween. October 31st. So that's the unofficial date. We want to do it on Halloween night, since most people are not going to be able to go out and have fun on Halloween. And it's a Saturday. Anybody who's a Genesis fan will be glued to their TV now. So, awesome. We're going to make it a little more special than we did 3 years ago. We are going to add a bonus track to Seconds Out. I'm not going to say what it is. We've done it in the past, but I like to believe that if there were more time on the album, maybe they would have put, since it was from this tour, that particular tour, we're going to add a song that we would have liked to have seen on the album. So, we're gonna leave that.
Yeah, secret for now.
There's some diehards that have seen us before, probably know what it is. Do not say what it is, please. I'm talking to you, Scott Kinney, and a few others. But so hopefully Halloween night we'll be doing that. Yeah.
Okay. So as we wrap things up, of course, COVID's going on, and you guys don't have any scheduled live shows besides doing this, getting these stream things going, keeping yourselves occupied. How can we, as we wrap things up, how do we get in touch with you guys from ABACAB? What do we need to do? Where are you guys? Are you online? How do we get in touch with you?
You can find us at ABACAB, the Music of Genesis, on Facebook. You can also, if you search ABACAB, the Music of Genesis, on YouTube, you can go to our YouTube channel where you can find all of the content that we've been putting out since we've been together. These last two live stream shows have generated a wealth of content for us. So there's all kinds of videos of songs that we've done on YouTube right now.
Tons
that you can
of
go
deep tracks and
tons of deep tracks and hits and
solo stuff. So anyway, positive vibes to you, Matt. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, dude, this has been great. It's
awesome.
It's nice to be able to sit with a couple fellow music nerds and just nerd out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great to meet you guys after
we did that with King's X earlier.
Yeah, it's just great to be able to meet other people that I admire and who are in town, who are local musicians, and try to shine a light on what they're doing. So you guys are definitely up there for me. So
thanks, man.
Thank you, sir.
And that will bring episode 36 of the Queen City Music Podcast to a close. If you have an idea for an episode or would like to be a guest on the QCMP, reach out to me at qcmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Also, please check out our partner, Records on the Wall, at rexonthewall.com. Until next month, get out there and support your local music scene by going to hear some of the talented musicians that call the city of Charlotte home. Be well and stay safe.